Back in 1986, Los Angeles was hot, both in weather and in tension. It was the kind of place where you kept your doors locked, even when you were home. But in one quiet, sun drenched neighborhood, a tragedy unfolded behind closed doors. And no one saw it coming, not for 23 years. Her name was Sherri Rasmussen, a radiant nurse with a kind heart and a strong head on her shoulders. Married just 3 months earlier to a guy named John Rutan. Solid fella, engineer type, kept his nose clean. They'd just settled into their life together. Young love, full of promise. But on one February evening, everything fell apart. John came home from work and found Sherri dead on the living room floor. Brutal scene. Signs of a struggle. Broken glass and her body cold and crumpled. At first glance, it looked like a robbery gone wrong. There were some VCRs missing and a stereo gone. LAPD chalked it up quick. A tragic, random act of violence. But something didn't sit right. Not with her family, at least. Sherri's father was adamant. He told the cops about a woman from John's past. A cop, no less. A woman named Stephanie Lazarus. He told them she'd been obsessive, jealous, that she'd once shown up at Sherri's workplace uninvited and said something like, "If I can't have John, no one will." You'd think that kind of thing would send red flags flying, but here's where it gets dark. Stephanie was one of them, a police officer, a respected one, rising through the ranks. So when that name came up in connection to the murder, it quietly disappeared from the file. Years passed, seasons changed. Sherri's family mourned, but justice never came. And then nearly 2 decades later, a pair of cold case detectives were reviewing old files. Looking over Sherri's case, they noticed something strange. The crime scene felt too staged. That robbery seemed off. Valuables left untouched, and the wounds on Sherri's body? Rage. Personal. Not some random break-in gone bad. So they started digging, quietly, under the radar, because if their hunch was right, the killer was still wearing a uniform. They pulled the old DNA evidence, bite marks on Sherri's arm. Back in the 80s, DNA wasn't much help, but now it could sing like a canary. And sing it did. The results pointed to a female officer, so the detectives got crafty. They followed Stephanie one afternoon, watched her sip coffee, toss a cup in the trash. They scooped it up and ran the DNA. The DNA was a match. Stephanie Lazarus, decorated LAPD detective, was arrested inside the department building she worked in. Her colleagues had no idea, or maybe they did, and just didn't want to believe it. At the trial, the evidence was overwhelming. The bite mark, her history with John, the missing diary entries, her cold stare in court. In 2012, she was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 27 years to life. Now here's what chills me most about this story. Sherri did everything right. She loved deeply, worked hard, and lived clean. But she couldn't have seen the danger coming because it was wrapped in authority, in trust, in blue. So when you hear footsteps in the night or a knock at the door you weren't expecting, remember this: monsters don't always lurk in shadows. Sometimes they wear a smile, and sometimes they carry a badge.